Hello, my name is Celia Delasso, and I am here to talk to you about my offshore wind and law final presentation. In this presentation, we will be going over the two main agencies in offshore wind permit process, Customs and Border Control and their involvement in offshore wind, environmental justice in offshore wind, and how New England shipyards are helping in the offshore wind process. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, and Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, BSEE, are the two big agencies involved with offshore wind. The parent agency was the Minerals Management Service, and they were promoting resource development, enforcing safety regulations, maximizing revenues from offshore operations, but due to lack of resource, they could not keep pace with the challenges of overseeing the industry operating in the U.S. waters. So on October 1st, 2011, BOEM and BSEE were created. So BOEM at the beginning, they issue the leases and they hold the lease sales and they prepare lease terms and conditions. BOEM also issues the SAP and the COP. They manage the Intergovernmental Task Force, they conduct NEPA analysis, and they provide expertise on incidents and review requested by BSEE. Now, BSEE has a bigger role in offshore wind. At first, BOEM was doing everything, and BSEE did not get involved until the approval of the COP. Now, BSEE is more involved in the process. BSEE participates in the Intergovernmental Task Force and reviews and gives feedback on the SAP and the COP. They also oversee decommissioning. They also receive annual compliance and certificates and performs compliance verification activities for the lessee. BSEE conducts investigations, and when needed, they take enforcement actions, including non-compliance actions and civil penalties. Here is an offshore wind process from the identification of the leasing area to the decommissioning and restoring of that area to its original state. This process is a multi-year process that can take a significant amount of time to even start the construction of the offshore wind farm. The leasing process. So BOEM will publish a request for interest letting the world know that there is an area of federal waters that may be used for renewable energy development. BOEM will figure out if there is a competitive interest or not. Also, BOEM will figure out if the lessee is an eligible person to lease out this area, meaning if they have the financial capabilities and experience. Issuing the lease. If it's a competitive leasing process, a proposed sale notice is published on the Federal Register and on BOEM's website. Notice is also sent to the governor of any affected state, local government of affected state, Native American tribes of affected state, and then there is a public commencement period open for 60 days. BOEM will go through all those comments and address them. Then there is a lease auction, and the lease is awarded to the winner of the auction. If it is not a competitive leasing area, BOEM will negotiate a lease with the potential party. The Site Assessment Plan, SAP, describes the equipment that the lessee will build or deploy in the leased area, which will be used to study the characteristics of the site, meaning the bottom types of living and non-living natural resources, water temps, currents, and archaeological features. This information gathered by the equipment deployed in the SAP will help the lessee create the COP. BSEE needs to review and BOEM needs to approve the SAP before anything can happen in the leased area. The lessee must include in their SAP is contract information, the site assessment or technology testing concept, description of the purpose activities, including technology that is being used, and proposed schedule of start to completion. The purpose measures of avoiding environmental impacts needs to comply with the NEPA and other federal laws, and much more. One interesting part of the SAP is that it involves a good amount of research, which involves much interagency cooperation. Key points of the SAP. I think of the SAP as a plan for the plan, as in before any construction or development can happen, the developers need the information about the site. And also, before the developers can do anything, they need to submit and get approval for what they tend to do out there on the leasing area. Then BSEE could suggest changes about the SAP, and BOEM ultimately approves the SAP. And the SAP also has nothing to do with the wind turbine generators. It deals with different separate equipment. The Construction and Operation Plan, COP, describes how the lessee plans to construct, operate, and eventually decommission the wind farm. It describes all the facilities that will be constructed to support the project, both onshore and offshore. It also describes the environmental impacts and all the technical equipment that has to be used with the turbines. The COP is submitted separately and approved separately from the SAP before construction activities can begin. The COP approval also includes significant terms and conditions that must be met and include certifications and summaries. Bessie reviews and BOEM approves the COP. There are 3 volumes of the COP. The COP has 3 volumes. Volume 1 is a project overview. This is an overview of the project from start to the eventual decommissioning of the wind farm. This includes general info about the project, location maps for the onshore and offshore facilities, the design of the structures and facilities, and much more. Volume 2 is the technical information including the site geology and environmental conditions, shallow hazards, assessment results from all the studies done before construction starts, and much more. Volume 3 includes environmental information. This means how the project will affect the environment naturally and socially. This includes all the studies, plans, reports, certificates, etc. supporting the environmental impact of this project. Key points to the COP are that the COP is the directions to build a wind farm. It has everything from the number of turbines that are being installed to the onshore and offshore facilities and how the lessee will decommission the wind farm. What happens after you submit your COP? After you submit your COP, the Record of Decision, ROD, is released from BOEM, Bessie, United States Army Corps of Engineers, NOAA, and other agencies. It is a lengthy review process from these multiple agencies that either gives full thumbs up with conditions, or thumbs down about the project. The lessee may commence commercial activities 30 days after the survey verification agent had submitted the final fabrication and installation report to BOEM and Bessie for review. Agencies gave Vineyard Wind a thumbs up with conditions. Customs and Border Protection. The Jones Act involves cabotage and personal injury. The Jones Act requires ships transported between U.S. ports to be U.S. built, U.S. owned, and U.S. operated under the U.S. flag. The problem comes what stage does the wind turbine or construction becomes a port or a point of the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol is responsible for the enforcement and interpretation whether an activity qualifies as transportation of merchandise or passengers, and or whether origin/destination of a voyage is between points in the United States. The lessee can write to Customs and Border Patrol about any questions they have whether their actions will break the Jones Act. At first, the Jones Act was more towards transportation of goods with like oil and gas, but until 2021, the government added the phrase non-mineral energy resources, which means that wind is also part of the Jones Act. This means that the Jones Act and other acts would now apply to renewable energy projects on the outer continental shelf. Here are the strategies currently being used to be in compliance with the Jones Act for offshore wind. This is currently how the offshore wind farms are being built in the U.S. in compliance with the Jones Act due to the lack of U.S. flagged offshore wind vessels. I feel that the Jones Act is good for the United States offshore wind. It helps the United States maintain a strong maritime industry with providing jobs and income to people. I do feel like there is a lack of resources and technology which prevents the United States to follow the regulations of the Jones Act. For example, the vessels used for offshore wind at this time. Currently, there is no U.S. flagged offshore wind vessels as in jacked up vessels, cable laying vessels, service operation vessels, and other vessels used in offshore wind. Companies need to look international to find vessels that are capable to complete the job at this time. But one good thing is that day by day companies are starting to build vessels that will be Jones Act compliant. For example, in the picture is the Eco Edison, which will be the first U.S. Jones Act compliant wind service operational vessel. Environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people regardless of race, color, national origin, or income. Fair treatment means that no population bears a disproportionate share of negative environmental consequences resulting from industrial, municipal, and commercial operations or from the execution of federal, state, and local laws, regulations, and policies. Environmental justice is important because it is a basic human right. It allows everyone to have choice over the decisions that impact their lives. Vendor 1 is making sure people are again treated equitably. On their website, they have tabs for how they are dedicated to provide resources and information to members of federally recognized indigenous nations who are part of the federal permit review process, also involving their local community in helping with the project and having liaisons who are there to answer questions for the people in the community. They also have a host community agreement for delivering significant economic and environmental benefits from this project. New England Shipyards and CTVs. Senesco Marine is located in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, and it is a New England shipyard. They are helping with the building of crew transfer vessels for the offshore wind projects, including Vineyard Wind and South Fork Wind. They are building 3 crew transfer vessels. These vessels are used to transport wind farm technicians and other personnel out to the sites on a daily basis. The hulls are generally aluminum, catamaran type with an average speed of approximately 20 knots, carrying around 36 people. It is cool to see this because it's a New England shipyard company helping with all these big offshore wind projects. So in the fall of 2022, I was able to take a tour of Senesco shipyard, and here is where Senesco was building all 3 of their CTVs for offshore wind. Each vessel was at a different stage of being built, so it was cool to see the progress of each vessel. Here are what the 3 CTV vessels are supposed to look like when they are done being built. Overall, the offshore wind industry is still growing day by day, and there's so much to figure out and to innovate for the future of this industry. And here are my sources.